I have never had a game warn me this many times about starting a new save. It's like, it's like, okay, I click yes, right? Perhaps you would like to rethink your decision. Actually, the decision you're making kind of dumb. Bear in mind that one, it cannot be changed. It's like the story game while retaining most of your data from the previous video. Yep. Are you quite sure? There's four. You had to click yes 4 times before this game will let you start New Game Plus. You have to say yes 4 times, and I just think that's so silly. Oh my lord! It, it just keeps warning you. It's just like no, you have to be sure. Oh my goodness. Well, howdy ho there, folks. How are we doing today? Hopefully you're all doing absolutely peachy keen fantastic. We're going to talk to you a little bit about Dragon's Dogma today, and what kind of happened, and a few other things. So, the reason I say what kind of happened is, well, I've beaten the game now. And before you go, oh, congratulations, I did it with cheats. So basically what kind of happened to me was I was playing Mage, and I was just kind of not really into the combat. I was really not into the combat. I really wasn't that into running from place to place. I really wasn't into most of the NPCs I was interacting with. It was all just kind of fine. Nothing about it was particularly like sticking itself out to me. And I have this thing where sometimes if I'm playing a video game, and if it's not particularly getting me, or if it's just, you know, kind of whatever's going on, for some reason I'll always just want to rush to the end and just see what the ending is. Also, I just want to show you, so this is, I leveled up a bunch, obviously. This is what NPCs started looking at, like, around level 130. For some reason, like, half of the ladies were just in this, or some kind of weird skimpy outfit, which kind of almost made me want to see if I could find a way to reverse the level for no other reason than to go back to when pawns just had, like, the starter gear on. Because the starter gear, I think, looks better than... Well, some of these look fine, you know, but, like... You know, I was kind of getting... Actually, this group here wasn't as bad. Several of the groups I got were just literally nothing but naked women. Or dudes in onesies, for some reason. I am not 100% sure what exactly caused that. But, anyway... So I wasn't, like, super enjoying the thing, and I kind of just wanted to get to the end. But I was playing it a decent bit. And I was just kind of running straight from A to B. But I turned up, like, the main cheat thing I did was, I took my, base magic stat and bumped it up a lot. It just made it so I did a lot more damage. And towards the end of it, I put it up a lot. Like a lot, so that I was basically one-hitting most things that weren't like bosses. Bosses I was having to do multiple attacks and things like that. But anyway, I wasn't having the greatest time. I also was personally finding the map just kind of to look at. You know what it really reminds me of? It really reminds me of some of the other Monster Hunter games. And the NPCs in particular were kind of a bigger issue because a lot of the ones I talked to... I don't know what exactly it was. It just kind of felt like I was talking to mannequins, you know, like, I listen to them and it's like, this just feels, I think a good way to put it was that it felt kind of written, where, you know, like, obviously all these characters are written, all this stuff is written because someone had to write the dialogue, someone had to perform the dialogue, except I understand. But maybe you'll know what I mean if I say that sometimes when I'm, like, you'll be interacting with a world and you'll just be immersed in the world itself. Whereas other times, you have a story in a world that just feels, either because of cliches, the way people are talking, or the way people are moving, but something will take you out of it and you're just like, this is a video game. This is not like a world I'm exploring. This feels like a video game. And me going from just A to B, not really stopping a whole heck of a lot in the forest or wherever, because after a while, as I was exploring, I didn't even feel like I was really gathering things that were that worth gathering. honestly. Like, it didn't feel like a lot of it was that important, and without changing my encumbrance, I was getting encumbered so quickly that I was just kind of like, okay, yeah. So the game on my first playthrough was just really not taking me in, and I was just really kind of going through it. And also, there's so many weird costumes in this game, like this. I don't know what this disco ball man is doing. But anyway, so that's kind of what my experience was like on my first playthrough. And yet, for some reason, I still played like 13 hours to get all the way to the end, kill the dragon. And then once I did that, I decided to start over. Now, I made a couple of mistakes with that. First off, I was kind of under the impression that even though you can only have one save at a time, it would be easier to delete. Turns out it's not. Turns out, if you want to start over, you have to do a bunch of stuff to, like, basically remove your save from the cloud. Well, it looks like what you have to do is you have to turn off your cloud save, and then you have to go find your save file, delete that, and all these other things. It looks like they're adding, like, from what I saw on the community page and news thing, it looks like they're going to add the ability to have more than one save, which would be nice. But realizing that I would have to do all this stuff to get an extra save, I was like, okay, I don't really feel like doing that. So I will wait until they make a new save. But I wanted to make Jesus darker because, you know, the whole thing was that I was supposed to be similar to Jesus in appearance. Similar, not, you know, obviously we don't know 100% what Jesus looked like at the time. All that fun stuff. Although people have seen visions of Jesus. Interesting. But anyway. But there were... one of the biggest changes I decided to make was I was going to change location. Because I realized that, you know, even though I'm a magic cat and I like magic, mage in this one in particular just felt kind of boring to me. It felt like, from when I was playing and experimenting with, it was the class that I felt like I had the least control, I guess is just the easiest way to put it. Like, it does a lot of auto-targeting, and it seems like it does a lot of just, like, you're gonna cast fire, or, you know, then I unlocked big frost thing and other things. And some of those were a little bit better than others, but it just wasn't very interesting to me combat-wise. Now, on the second run, we decided to go with a fighter instead. That was a great decision. I started enjoying the game a lot more playing fighter, like a lot more. Like, without the... I don't know if it's just a lock-on issue, but it's something like I'm very much a vibes cat. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? I like vibes. Vibes will carry me through a lot of things. But I started having a lot more fun once I started playing a fighter. Once I started just playing this a good old hacky slashy man, once I started doing a lot of running around with Ilana, who is my main pawn, and we were just two warriors just going out into the world and having a good time, fighting and doing things like that. Then the game really picked up for me. The other thing is, and I know that this is silly cat brain more than anything, right? Without the need to see what was happening at the end and figuring out what all this was building up to, by the way, almost everywhere I went, there was also just people dressed like this. I don't know why there were so many people, like, dressed like that, but there was a lot. But anyway, but without the need to, like, rush through and get to the end and see what happens with the bosses and all this stuff, I was just taking my time more and enjoying it a lot more. I also tried to reverse the changes I did to my character, and I reversed most of them actually very successfully, thankfully, because I could set what my base strength was and what my base magic was and all that. So I reversed it so it wasn't like I was just king of the forest, but I was still level 178 or level 100 whatever. I was having just a lot more fun just doing, like, the hacky slashy sword stuff. and I was having a lot more fun just kind of wandering around. I was still getting this kind of feeling that like a lot of the NPCs I was interacting with just felt very not interesting. I'm trying to think what a good example of this really is, and actually a good example is these Norbert people here. These guys, when we get back to the village, one of them has a line that I think really kind of illustrates what I talk about. But the NPCs just weren't particularly taking me still. Ulrika is like one of the first you meet that is like a longer term character that you talk to, and she seems very nice. But for one reason or another, I just find that I don't care that much. I like to help the villagers, and I'm trying to help the villagers, and I'm trying to be a good kitty cat and all those nice things. But a lot of the things I was gathering, a lot of the things that like I would get by just wandering around the world, I kind of wondered what the point was. Some of them it's just for upgrade materials, and upgrading your stuff does make it a lot better. And that is one thing I will say is because I gave myself a bunch of levels, and I did give my pawn a few levels. But I didn't think about it this way. So normally I don't have any issue with cheating because it's my game. I can do whatever I want. I don't care. And like people are like, it'll ruin your experience. It's like, yeah, but if I'm not having a great experience to begin with, I'm not that concerned. Now, but I didn't think about it. It was like, oh wait, people rent out my pawn, so I can't actually give her the same levels I have without giving her, making sure she has good equipment and like making sure she can be sent out and actually help. Where she is right now with the equipment I've upgraded on her and things like that, people are still saying, hey, thanks for sending her, and they're giving me gifts and all that, so that's good. But I need to make sure that she has good equipment, so I can't just like go, okay, you're going to be like level 170 whatever with me now. We're not doing that. Because you know my level doesn't affect anybody else's experience, but I don't want to have her level up a bunch. But I don't see combat is also a little weird because it kind of seems like your level matters more than the level of your equipment to a certain extent. And like, yeah, your equipment helps, and like if you have like the better stuff, you can, you know, level up a bunch and all that, or you can fight better, whatever. But most of it is down to you, the skills you have, and things like that, rather than your equipment. So it was a little weird. All right. So just to talk about what I was talking about, I don't know. This will probably not bother a lot of you the way it bothers me. So then, after all this, is like, you wonder why I don't follow him. This guy basically talks about how he regrets not following his brother out there and making sure his brother was safe. Okay, reasonable enough. What I don't particularly like, though, is that, like, my brother's always the one taking initiative while I stand around. But today's misadventure showed me, I was skipping through this too fast. You know, so like, I'm a wonder, from now on, I'm going, this is the line, from now on, I'm going to trust my own instincts more. Basically, you help this guy out once, and now he's like, ah, yes, I have learned the movie lesson from this, which is not that, hey, maybe we shouldn't just wander out into the woods without a plan and without backup if there's this much danger and stuff like that. And instead is like, I am dumb and I need to have more help brother initiative. And it's just the writing, and I know I skipped through it real fast, so it's kind of hard to see, but the writing on a lot of these things just feels like something like a storybook character or like a comic book character would say. That doesn't feel like the way a normal person would talk. And there's a lot of that in this. Like, as I go around, like, there's a lot of little things like that. In terms of the actual interactions with the NPCs, most of them aren't that bad. I wasn't super impressed with a lot of them. And I don't know. I'm going through it again. And by simply taking my time a little bit more, and just sort of enjoying the melee combat a ton more than I was enjoying the mage combat. Like, I mean, so much more than I was enjoying the mage combat. It was kind of bumping up the experience quite a bit for me. I think that overall the game is what I would call fine, good sometimes. Sometimes I feel like I'm having a pretty good experience, and then like other times when I'm being forced to interact with the story, which is, I'm not going to spoil anything about what happens, but basically it's a very simple chosen one story. You are the chosen one, you have to do these things, and there's someone inside the castle helping you to achieve your goals so that you can become the big arisen Lord Man thing if you want. I just don't find that particularly compelling. I'm not really that interested in being a chosen one again. I've been a chosen one in a billion different video games at this point. There's not really anything particularly special about being a chosen one in this instance. And, I mean, I don't want to rule this kingdom. Man, you walk 5 feet outside of a town and the undead attack you, or a cyclops attacks you, or a billion other things attack you. I don't want to have to manage this shit. Are you kidding me? It's not the worst story ever. It's just, it wasn't particularly interesting to me. It wasn't something that was like making me oh, it's not even showing me how much time is fast in the video. That's weird. Whatever, it doesn't matter. But you know,
to this world I return.
I'm not particularly interested in that stuff. I'm not particularly interested in being the chosen one. And when I got to the end, I was just like, okay, whatever. Now, the person, I do have a friend who knows way more about the Dragon's Dogma 1, loved it, which, good on him for that, I guess. And said there's a lot of stuff I was missing. And I don't know. Maybe I'm still missing stuff by just wandering around and just killing things, but I don't know. At this point, I'm just treating this game as an open world adventure simulator. I'm not really treating this as like a great story, and I'm finding that by doing that, I'm having a lot more fun. By just being like, I don't really care about the whole arisen and controlling pawns and all this other stuff thing. It's like, okay, cool, everything's fine. I'm not that worried about it, honestly. And by just running into the forest and just running around, it's been a lot better. So I think that's definitely affected the way I play the game, though. I mean, like I said, I gave myself a bunch of levels and stuff, and really, well, the levels didn't even seem to matter that much. It was mostly the bumping up my magic and strength a ton. Those were the two that made a much bigger difference, and by just toning those down, everything was fine. It seems, or went basically back to fine. Nothing too extravagant. But I would say that I guess I wasn't sure what to expect when I went into the game. I was kind of thinking that it would be more interesting in the story department, but I found, like I said, by just kind of not really bothering too much with the story and just kind of running around doing the thing, everything was fine. The NPCs in particular just felt kind of wooden, but I don't know, they weren't all wooden. There was this cat lady in Batal that I thought was pretty cool, and some of those guys were pretty cool. Probably should have spent more time there. But almost everyone I met in, it's Vermund, isn't it? Yeah, Vermund. See, he said it for me, thank you. Everything in Vermund I was less impressed with, and it felt more like just a random generic fantasy world where I was just wandering around doing everyone's jobs for them, because I mean, it does definitely seem like Dragon's Dogma is a dangerous world to exist in. But one has to wonder how like a normal person just like gets from like A to B in a place like this, because like literally every 5 feet, there's more goblins. And I will definitely say that if the melee hadn't improved significantly, I probably would have just stopped playing, because the
Well done.
mage was just not really doing it for me. Also, there's fun little things where I get to like high five and give my little pawns a fist bump and things like that, and I think that's worth it. But yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about like the experience I've had and just being like, oh yeah, I'm kind of bored with this. I'm not really loving the story. Let's get to the end. Why not? And then being like, oh, I can't just start over. But then, you know, still having a pretty good time now that I've switched to melee and just kind of approach the game differently. And I want to talk about all that, just to talk about the game, but I also want to talk about it's interesting to me because I very much noticed that like when I started approaching the game differently, it was just better. When I approach the game like I want to engage with this story and I want to kind of build up these relations, and then I go to the NPCs and I'm just like, I just don't care what you have to say. You're just not selling me on like you being a person or being an interesting person. And it was like, oh well, this story is just kind of but then like just kind of treating it as basically a free form, we're just gonna run around and just explore and take crap and just be a cool guy in the forest or in the desert. Then the game beefed up experience beef a lot. Good beef, good beefy story. I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, no, I just wanted to share like my thoughts and just kind of throw them out there because I will also say the microtransactions basically are completely irrelevant. You don't have to worry about the microtransactions in now like 15 hours of play or something like that. I don't think, actually it might be a bit more. Anyway, in my play now, I have not actually encountered anything that requires microtransactions. You don't need them for anything, like at all, as far as I can tell. And I think even the stuff that's like you want to change your like pawn and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure you can find that in game. So don't worry about the microtransactions. And I guess my final thing there is it worth $70? I think that's going to be dependent on you. What I'm going to say is, from my experience, this is fine now. Wasn't that great for the first 12 hours I was playing. Was just kind of eh. And I'm sure some people say, well, if you know, the cheating ruins the gameplay. Like, no, okay, come on. It's like almost 5 hours of playing as a mage. That combat was trash, my guy. Just not fun at all. I was just bored out of my mind, bored out of my gourd with like the stuff I was doing.
This ends here.
I would still like to start over just to like have like a clean slate and try it as a not a warrior, because a warrior is a separate class, a fighter. But yeah, just playing it as just like an open world, just gathering simulator, just like and then I tried, yeah, bump my elbow. Anyway, was much better, and I highly recommend it in that capacity. If you like just running around in Skyrim and exploring things, then that's good. If you're here for the story, for me personally, I thought it was kind of trash. But if you read reviews, people obviously don't think that, and a lot of people think that this is an amazing game. I don't know about that. I think it's pretty good. Having fun with my hacky slashy. But yeah, all I can say is that at this point my experience is, well, A, I can't return it, so even if I did want to return it, I can't. Which I don't really think I do. I think I'm having enough fun now just like running around stabbing things that we're fine. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I just wanted to share my thoughts, share some of the stuff I came across as I've now run through the game. And I'm sure some people will be like, well, you were skipping a lot of dialogue, so that's probably... It's like, look, that is probably part of the reason why some NPCs didn't stick out to me very much, but it was like every time I was listening to their dialogue, it just wasn't particularly interesting. That's all I can say. It's like, I want characters, and I feel like the characters I get are not selling me on this world. They're not particularly selling me on, like, the idea that I'm... kind of a side note, since I'm about to wrap up here, but I will say this. It's very funny that Brant, the guy you meet in the city who, like, helps you stuff, he's like, yeah, we had to keep the fact that you're arisen a secret for various reasons, but I swear, every other NPC I encountered like right outside the city, was calling me Arisen. Like somehow everyone that I walked up to knew I was Arisen. Like everybody. I was just walking around. They're like, "Oh, you're Arisen, is it?" It's like, what? What do you mean? How did you know? It's sort of like how, like, in Elden Ring, everybody knows you're tarnished. I have no idea how they know you're tarnished. They just know. And then I'm just sort of like, you don't know I'm Arisen. Don't tell the queen, because then I'll have to stab her. And I will. If she's a bad lady, I'll stab her with loving kindness. Then where will she be? That's right. She'll be enlightened with the loving kind. Also the catchy, which is fun. Anyway, you know, I think it's pretty good. Not amazing. Yeah, I don't know. Would it have been better without cheats? No. I'm definitely not gonna say that. I'm definitely not gonna say if I stuck with mage, it would have been better without cheats. There's no. I don't believe that for a second. As a fighter, yeah, I could see that kind of ruining your experience a little bit.
Quickly arisen.
At least for me, I could see that ruining your experience. And like, if you love mage, that's great, man. It's just for me personally, it was just a slog, such a slog, and I just didn't want to continue. And yet, for some reason, I then played for 12 hours, being like, well, let's get to the end. Because I had already passed the time you're normally allowed to return things. It's like, fuck it, we own it. Yeah. Anyway, that was just my thoughts. And maybe, hopefully, you'll have more fun with the game than I did. And if you're not enjoying the game, you know, I mean, it's that you could be like me, and maybe it's just a vocation and just like a mindset thing where you just kind of need to shift over to something else. Because, I mean, like I said, mage, going for story, really didn't like the game. I thought it was very flat and boring. Just running around stabbing things as a guy with a sword, suddenly it was way more fun. It's very weird. But anyway, so thanks for stopping by. You know, like, comment, subscribe. You know, you can tell me how wrong I am, or your experience with the game, or what you think maybe would be fun to try out as a guy with a sword, or maybe what other guy with a sword classes there are to try that you think I might enjoy, because I do have multiple of them, because I beat the game, I ran through, I got a lot of vocations. Well, not a ton, but I got multiple other vocations. So maybe I could try the warrior next, or I could try the mystic spear. That looked like it could be kind of fun, or maybe even a thief or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, I hope that you all have an absolutely wonderful day, and I hope that you know that I love you and God loves you, and bye-bye, love you, bye. Have a great one.